Hey. Let's get into it, shall we? You've heard the story a million times. Your grandpa gives away your inheritance to a dubious telemarketer in the form of Bed Bath & Beyond gift cards. While these swindlers and schemers are pretty clever, today we are gonna take it back to simpler times, when swindlers didn't have the convenience of scamming a bunch of geezers across the world while scratching their nutsack. Back when scamming required good old-fashioned ingenuity. Today we are taking a dive into the life of Victor Lustig. Lustig was born in the small town of Hotdog in Bohemia in a poor household. His father, Ludwig, was apparently bad-tempered and abusive. In one account, when Victor refused to take violin lessons, Ludwig carefully and slowly raised the violin, pointing it to the ceiling, before bringing it down with all his force on Victor's noggin. This abuse quickly turned into a disdain for authority. On his very first day in elementary school, Victor was expelled for telling his teacher to
"Lich mich am Arsche,"
or "lick my asshole." Nonetheless, Victor proved to be both charismatic and highly intelligent in his youth, well-versed in numerous subjects and fluent in 6 languages. At the age of 14, Victor got tired of being abused and ran away from home to Dresden, Germany. He quickly found himself destitute and homeless. One night, while eating garbage in a gutter, Victor witnessed a wealthy man order a lavish dinner for a prostitute. While waiting for the food, the man got so hot and bothered that he said, "Forget the food. Let's go make hanky-panky," leaving the food completely untouched. Here, Victor developed a hatred for rich people and a desire to steal all of their money. For the rest of his crime-laden life, Victor would use this anecdote to justify his actions, painting himself as a Robin Hood-like figure, just a guy from meager beginnings, stealing money from an undeserving, high society. However, beneath his veneer of charm and good intentions, Victor was a supremely callous asshole. But I'm sure that will be evident soon. You dumb bitch, ever heard the saying, he could sell ice to an Eskimo? Well, what about he could sell the Eiffel Tower to an esteemed French businessman? In the 1920s, the Eiffel Tower was falling into disrepair, and the good people of Paris were hemorrhaging euros maintaining and repainting it. In fact, Parisian newspapers often threw around the idea of removing the tower altogether. It was this public sentiment that gave old Victor the idea for his grandest scheme yet, straight up selling the Eiffel Tower. After forging some government letterheads, Lustig invited a few French scrap metal dealers to a top-secret meeting, boldly giving himself the complete bullshit title of
Deputy Director of the Ministère de Poste et Télégraphe,
or Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs. Victor, with the utmost sense of gravity and sincerity, explained that the Eiffel Tower was too stinky and expensive, and that he had been sent on a top-secret mission by the government to sell it for scraps. The few lucky men in this room, specifically chosen by the government for their honesty and character, were being given the opportunity to purchase the salvage rights. Being that the Eiffel Tower was, and is, a £15 million piece of metal, this prospect was any scrap dealer's wet dream. To convince the fellas that it wasn't too good to be true, Victor presented a seemingly detailed ledger of the tower's assets and debts, and demonstrated a vast knowledge of the makeup of the tower. He also explained that everyone would have to sign a non-disclosure agreement to avoid public outcry. This, of course, was just Victor's clever way of keeping the scam contained. After interviewing each man over the next few days, Lustig finally chose a man by the name of Poisson as his sucker. Andre had just moved to Paris and, as a result, was insecure, gullible, and desperate to make a name for himself, the ideal combination for a bit of good old-fashioned financial fisting. Over the next few weeks, Victor became Poisson's best buddy in the whole wide world, smothering him with affection and charm. Although Poisson was initially quiet and reserved, Victor quickly fisted him out of his shell. One of Victor's accomplices even recalled an instance in which he saw the two together, with Victor cracking jokes and Poisson convulsing with laughter. All along the way, Victor meticulously added little flourishes to further build his legitimacy in Poisson's eyes. For example, he often picked up Poisson in an official French government limousine. He always wore a patriotic French pin on his lapel. He even hired multiple people to approach him in public, respectfully doff their caps and greet him as a Monsieur le Ministre, whereupon he would humbly shoo them away. Soon enough, Poisson let his guard down completely. He was buttered up and ripe for the pickings. Right before the transaction was to take place, Victor seized the chance to squeeze just a little bit more juice from the poor kumquat. He sheepishly told Poisson that life as a public servant wasn't as easy as it seemed. That he, the
Deputy Director of the Ministère de Poste et Télégraphe.
Was actually broke as a joke, and that he had no job security with all the changes happening in the French government. Poisson quickly understood what Victor was hinting at, a bribe. Poisson laughed and wholeheartedly wrote a check to Victor for nearly $300,000, accounting for inflation. After all, this wasn't just any old street beggar. This was his best pal in the whole wide world, Victor Lustig. A few days later, Poisson finalized his purchase of the Eiffel Tower. It was finally time to get the ball rolling on demolition. He was scheduled to meet with an agency the next day to hash out the complicated logistics of scrapping the tower. However, when he showed for the meeting, there was no note of his appointment. After enough badgering, an elderly official consented to meet with him. Poisson began to ramble to the man about road closures, zoning issues, public safety concerns, and a top-secret government contract to blow up the Eiffel Tower with dynamite. After the laughter died down, Poisson was quickly informed that there was no such government order to disassemble the tower, and that there was no government employee by the name of Victor Lustig. Poisson went white as a sheet. The unthinkable had happened. He had just been swindled out of nearly $7 million. Poisson was completely humiliated. So humiliated, in fact, that he didn't even alert the police. If this story got out, his reputation would surely never recover. He had no choice but to swallow the tremendous loss in secrecy. All the while, Lustig was 700 miles away in Vienna. Wow. What a truly astonishing story about an underdog that rose to the occasion and beat the odds. All I know is that it certainly uplifted this little wiener. But any man worth his salt knows that a career isn't defined by its highest moments. It's the day in day out shit shoveling, the consistent and evergreen scams that really set Victor apart. That's right. When he wasn't busy selling the Eiffel Tower, Victor Lustig made his money in a variety of less glamorous ways. The most notable of these scams is perhaps the Romanian Box, which he devised and executed throughout the early 1920s. In this charade, Victor would wine and dine the richest idiot that he could find. After getting this person good and drunk, he would invite them up to his room to check out his miracle box, an impressive and complicated-looking chest that could duplicate money on demand. First, Victor would insert a $100 bill into a slot on the end of the box. Then he would pull a lever, sucking the bill into the machine. After waiting for 6 hours, he would return to the machine and pull the lever once more. Abracadabra. 2 100 bills would emerge from the box, an original and a perfect duplicate. Victor would meander from city to city selling this piece of shit for immensely exorbitant prices. He sold a good number of these boxes, many for as much as $30,000. As you might have imagined, the perfect duplicates were not duplicates at all. The box was already stashed full of $100 bills. Naturally, the box would stop working after a couple of uses. But the box looked so complicated, with all its gears and levers, people typically believed that they were just too dumb to use it. They would spend days upon days trying to fix the box, waiting 6 hours at a time of course, giving Victor plenty of time to make an escape. A few years later, Victor redesigned the box to look even more elegant and complicated. He sold one of these new models in Chicago for $20,000, one in Kansas for $22,000, one in Montana for $46,000, and another in Chicago again for $50,000. Accounting for inflation, these sales alone netted Victor a whopping $200,000, oh whoops I mean a $2.3 million sum. And that's not even accounting for many of his sales. Well, there it is, fellas. A few insane accounts from the life of America's most extraordinary con man. Victor accomplished a number of equally outrageous scams, but I will spare you the details. Perhaps for a later video. Hope you found this video to your liking. You've been a great audience. I've been the History Hot Dog, and this has been Hot Dog History.